Good evening. Tonight's webinar is on spreading risk in digital currency and investments. The purpose of this webinar is to share insights that I've gained on top platforms that I've identified as being associated with or tied to viable, long-term legitimate companies that have transparent ownership and can be verified with third-party documentation. I need to start with a disclaimer. All information shared on this webinar cannot be received as professional investment or financial advice. This information is based on my personal research and no income guarantees can or will be made. All income projections are based on current research, meaning trends can change and the industry can change. All attendees and listeners understand that past performance is not indicative of future results. I cannot control the future. Only God can do that. So, during this webinar, we're going to review a couple of platforms, and they're listed in order confirmed as long-term sustainability based on the current market research that I've done. First one will be Bitcoin mining with Genesis Mining and Swiss Gold Global. Second will be Bitcoin trading with USI Tech Bitcoin packages. And the third will be global investing with Atlantic Global Asset Management, agronomistic investing. First company is Swiss Gold Global and Bitcoin mining with Genesis Mining. First, I'll briefly review what mining is, and then we'll get into the details about the company itself. Mining for Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies is very similar to mining for gold or mining for other precious metals. The mining process with a cryptocurrency is literally taking heavy computing power, which would be the shovel, and using it to dig into cyberspace to produce the gold or the cryptocurrency based on solving the equation necessary that produces that coin. For example, let's say, since I'm Henry, let's say that I decided to start a cryptocurrency called the Henry coin, and the solution to the Henry coin was the number 7. You would take your computing power and you would compute equations that would solve for 7. So it could be 20 minus 13, or 4 plus 3, or 6 plus 1, and on and on. And each of those solutions would give you the Henry coin. Essentially, that's what's happening with Bitcoin. And today, globally, approximately 1,800 Bitcoins are distributed to the network of miners that are mining the Bitcoin. However, the more people that are mining, the more competitive it gets, and computers are good at solving equations, so the networks create more difficult problems by the minute. Now, understand there is a fixed amount of Bitcoin to be mined. There's also a fixed amount of every cryptocurrency out there if it's a real cryptocurrency. It's not like fiat currency where you can just print as many as you want like our Federal Reserve does. That's valueless. That's where inflation comes from. It's not real. It's not a real currency. But these are real commodities as the U.S. government has seen them or identified them as, rather. I believe that took place in 2016 or the summer of 2015. I forget which. But the government accepted cryptocurrencies, namely Bitcoin, as a commodity, as you'll see other countries are doing also. But these cryptocurrencies have a fixed amount of coins that can be generated, so the value cannot be inflationary. So Swiss Gold Global has been providing gold, precious metals, silver, etc. at spot price for many years. Recently, they decided to join with Genesis Mining to provide the mining of Bitcoin to their members. And here's how it works. With Swiss Gold Global, you can purchase mining time in 30 US dollar increments. The maximum one-time purchase is $19.50, so basically $2,000. And there's no limit to the number of packages that you can purchase. The only limit is their computing power. That's the only limit you have. So if you want to buy 10 packages at the $19.50, you can. You just have to buy each of them separately, one at a time, and I'll show you how to do that later. Now, all mining profits can be calculated on the web. This is not secret information. So if you go online and you Google Bitcoin calculator, one of the sites that will come up is this one right here, alloscomp.com Bitcoin calculator. I like using this one because it's fairly simple to use. Now, with the $19.50 package, you will get 15 terahash of mining power. That's basically the size of the shovel. And the size of that shovel will produce roughly, if you look down here in the calculations, $400 per month. Now, you will not receive the full $400 worth of Bitcoin. You have to split that 50-50 because Genesis Mining and Swiss Gold Global are doing all the heavy lifting. They're providing the hardware, the material, the energy, the electricity, etc., to make it happen. So they take 50% of the cut. Because in a nutshell, you're not doing anything. They're doing all the work. So for every $2,000 approximately that you put in, you will receive roughly $200 per month in increments of Bitcoin deposited directly into your account. If you were to purchase 30 terahash, two of the $2,000 packages, let's calculate that, you would receive, or rather generate, a little over $850, $870 per month at today's price of Bitcoin. So a little over $400 every month. Remember, that's a one-time purchase, and you receive that for the lifetime of Bitcoin mining, which is set to be for the next 2 decades. So a one-time purchase allows you to receive the mining profits for the lifetime of Bitcoin mining. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin mining industry so that you can see the profits that can be generated from the Bitcoin mining industry. Because not a lot of people are aware of this industry. Now, the industry started in roughly 2008. So it's been around for about a decade. And we can see in the decade from this article from Quartz Magazine that since 2008, Bitcoin miners have earned collectively a substantial amount of money. As you can see right here, this article lets us know that Bitcoin mining has become a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the Bitcoin miners collectively have earned over $2 billion in revenue since the cryptocurrency was established in 2008. Those are not small numbers at all, at all. So we can also see that Bitcoin mining is going to grow. This industry is not seeing its last days by any stretch of the imagination. And if you Google more about Bitcoin mining, you'll also see that other companies are jumping into it. Again, if you look at this chart, you can see the transaction fees paid to Bitcoin miners annually has jumped in 2016. So you can see from the last 3 years, it was quite steady. But 2016, it's increasing. That's because the market is increasing. Let's quickly look at another article, and you can Google this also. I'm going to, there we go, McAfee. I'm going to Google McAfee Bitcoin mining. I remember reading an article that McAfee, the owner of McAfee, here it is putting his money into starting a Bitcoin mining company. And this looks like it's back in April. And let's see what this article says. McAfee's MGTI Mac pool mine approximately 100 Bitcoin per month. So here he is, John McAfee. And the company MGTI is well known and owned by the staunch libertarian software entrepreneur, John McAfee. And this is very, very interesting. Here's a little quote. McAfee says, "Our partnership with an iconic name such as Bitmain Technologies is a major milestone for MGTI as it executes a plan to become the major player in Bitcoin throughout the Western Hemisphere." So, as you can see, and this is a fairly recent article, that Bitcoin mining is not dead. And according to documents submitted to the SEC, this company says it's one of the largest mining facilities in the US, taking in 100 Bitcoin per month. So you can see the industry has legitimate players in it, like John McAfee and MGTI, as well as Genesis Mining. I'd like to also look at another third-party article from Business Insider. This article takes you into the Genesis Mining facility. Now, Genesis Mining is basically a foreign stationed company. Most of its facilities are offshore, and that's for a very good reason. One of which is the amount of energy it takes, the mining power, as well as the cost for cooling. A lot of their facilities are in Iceland. They use green energy, and because of the temperature, it's easier to cool their facilities. This is an article by Business Insider that reviews Genesis Mining. These photos right here are from a Genesis Mining facility that as you can see here, they let customers mine using its cloud without having to buy specialized hardware. So you don't have to pay all the money on your own to produce any hardware. As we said earlier, and as we looked at with the calculator, all you have to do is purchase the contracts themselves. Technically, it's possible for you to mine on just about any computer, but as you can see here, it's not profitable to do so unless you have the right kit. Many people mine themselves. More often, they join large pools to improve their odds. Genesis model is another option. The Genesis model creates better odds for you because you're joining their system. Okay? So that's a really good article. It's taking you into the Genesis mining facility. You can go ahead and Google that on your own and read through it. Next article I want to go through, again, as you can see, I'm going through third-party documentation about the Bitcoin industry and Genesis mining so that you can see that this is real. This is something that you can purchase as contracts and receive real rewards, real profits directly into your Bitcoin wallet, which I'll show you in detail in a little bit. Here's a Forbes magazine article. So we went through Quartz, Business Insider, and then into Forbes. Forbes wrote an article, I believe this is last year, 2016, and this article covers Genesis mining and its beginnings. And there's a part of this article I want to focus on. There's the owner right there. His name is Marco Streng. He was introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008 via Bitcoin. So Satoshi basically is the guy that has created or started the Bitcoin. Marco Streng got wind of it quickly. That's how he was introduced to the industry, and he started building this company. One part of this article that is very interesting shows the viability of what Marco's doing. Now, this article was written last year, and at the date of this article, it says right here, to date, the fund, meaning the Genesis Mining team, raised a reported $100 million in assets. Now Genesis Mining is respected as one of the few companies within the Bitcoin industry that has created a highly profitable and sustainable business model. Excuse me, I had a drink there. 100 million in assets. Basically, that's saying large companies backed Marco's idea and said, this is real. We're going to put our money where your mouth is, and we are going to support you. And as you can see, Forbes says that Genesis Mining has created one of the few highly profitable and sustainable business models. And you can see why. You purchase one contract with Swiss Gold Global and Genesis Mining for $2,000, and you're receiving in increments roughly $200 per month for the lifetime of the contract, which is about 20 years. So I want to briefly take you into my Swiss Gold Global back office so you can see how to purchase a contract, and then we'll move on to the next company. So I'm going to Swiss Gold Global, and when you register, you will have an account very similar to mine. I have an account that I pay $50 a month for because I have more options with it. If I pay $50 a month and $270 up front, but you can get this for free, and you can purchase contracts with a free account, and you can earn the amounts that we were shown on the calculator. And this is how you would purchase. You get an account, you can register for free, you can have a free account. Once you set up your free account, you will go to My Crypto, and under My Crypto is where you will perform the purchase of your mining power, which is called hash rate. So here's the dashboard. Here it says all coins are mined daily. They will be paid out into your Bitcoin wallet. I entered my Bitcoin wallet there. You would do the same for your own personal Bitcoin wallet. You'd say increase hash rate. Start now. You would choose Bitcoin, as you see is chosen there. You click next. And then there will be this little hand that you can slide. As you see, it starts at the value of $30. You can take the hand, slide it to the right, and make a purchase. As you see, when you get closer to 15 terahash, we're at 13.4 right now, the price is $20.10. If you keep going all the way over to 15 terahash, you receive a discount, and it costs $19.50, as you can see right there. You would click next, and then you can make the payment through gift certificate, bank wire, credit card, or Bitcoin. I've made all my payments via Bitcoin. Once you make the payment, it will purchase the contract for you, and immediately it will start mining. All of the profits will be deposited directly into your personal Bitcoin wallet. As an aside, do not use Coinbase. Coinbase has been shutting down and seizing various wallets with virtually no explanation. They say they'll rectify it, but in my opinion, do not use Coinbase. Maybe purchase Bitcoin through Coinbase and then transfer it to another wallet like Blockchain or Bittrex or Local Bitcoins, any of the others. But just on the news, there's been bad reports about Coinbase, so I just want to throw that in there. So that is it in a nutshell with Swiss Gold Global. Very simple, very straightforward, long-lasting, and you can see that you can receive stable rewards, stable profit every month. One last thing I do want to mention, you can compound, meaning when you get that $200, let's say, per month in increments, at the end of the month, you could go ahead, or at any period in time, you can go ahead and purchase more mining power in increments of $30. So if you receive $30 in 2 days, you can go right back in and purchase it. I would suggest compounding for at least 6 months. You will rapidly increase the amount of return that you're receiving. I'll also provide these notes to you because Swiss Gold Global has a YouTube channel. And this link right here, where the mouse is, I hope you can see it, is a brief, casual interview with the owners. And I'd like to show you the channel really quickly. Let's go to the YouTube channel just so you can see it. This is a Swiss Gold Global YouTube channel that covers the basics of Swiss Gold Global. I would go in here and click around and watch some after you have registered for free, just to get an idea of the company and what it provides overall. But very stable, very good company. I believe it's a no-brainer to put some of your discretionary income into this company because the bank's not going to give you 6 to 10% per month. Forget about even getting that a year with the bank. So this is a very stable, very conservative company. I think it's a great business decision to put discretionary income into Swiss Gold Global and Genesis Mining. Next company is USI Tech and Bitcoin Trading. Excuse me while I take a little drink of water. Bitcoin Trading. Bitcoin Trading is very profitable because anyone can open a Bitcoin wallet. There's many of them out there. Again, I would not use Coinbase for obvious reasons. Just Google articles on Coinbase seizing Bitcoin wallets. But there's many other good wallets out there. So anyone can get a wallet, transfer it to an exchange like Kraken or Poloniex or Cryptopia or Bittrex, etc. And you can start to buy and sell or margin Bitcoin for profits. Now, why use USI Tech? Well, here's why. USI Tech for 8 years has specialized in providing Forex trading software. So USI Tech is a professional company in the trading industry. Recently, USI Tech decided to get into the Bitcoin trading industry and mining. They have a portion of the process which does involve mining, but I won't get into detail with that since we already covered Bitcoin mining with Swiss Gold Global and Genesis Mining. Their main package, though, is to purchase Bitcoin in 50 euro increments for a 140 working day contract. And you're earning 1% per day on your contract. And you can auto compound it, which is what I would highly suggest doing with USI Tech. How can they provide 1% per day? Many people would think Bitcoin's not going to grow that much. Bitcoin is mainly just a fad, or there's not a big future in Bitcoin, so its prices aren't going to rise, so why trade it, why buy it? Well, here's a really good article to shed some light on where Bitcoin is going, and this is just looking at Japan. I'm not looking at India, wherein if you Google India's Bitcoin exchange, it is growing by leaps and bounds. I'm not including China, wherein if you Google Bitcoin and Chinese exchanges, China's central bank recently approved withdrawals via Bitcoin on their exchanges, having scrutinized it with a fine-tooth comb, and it passed all tests, and now it's accepted in China. You can go ahead and Google that. It's been like a 4 to 5 month road for Bitcoin with China's exchanges. But let's look at Japan. On the streets of Japan, this news article lets us know that over 250,000 stores in Japan will be accepting Bitcoin by the end of this summer. Over 250,000 stores will be accepting Bitcoin. That's huge. We're talking brick and mortar stores. These aren't just online venues. These are brick and mortar where shoppers can walk into the stores and use Bitcoin. That's very, very critical. The reason it's critical is because it means that Bitcoin is becoming part of the society. It'll become part of the economy. And the more it's used, the more it's valued. So we can see here, by this summer, Bitcoin will become a payment option at shops that use Recruit Lifestyle's proprietary point-of-sale POS app called Arete. Currently, 260,000 food establishments and other retail locations nationwide use this tablet-based POS system. That's huge. That is very huge. In Japan, this report said that about 4,500 stores currently accept Bitcoin as payments. That's currently. And that was in January, it looked like. In January, 5,000 merchants and websites already accepted Bitcoin through the company's system. So here's another third-party documentation that just gives us a really good idea of where Bitcoin is going. Bitcoin is expanding rapidly throughout different countries. And also, Russia, though they've been on a trailing end of accepting Bitcoin, Russia has shown that they are making steps forward to accepting Bitcoin into some of their payment systems. It's still kind of tenuous. It's not a done deal, but by 2018, they are expected to be using Bitcoin in one of their larger payment systems. So we can see that Bitcoin is being used, and Bitcoin has a very bright future based on the market research. But I encourage you to Google more articles about Bitcoin in different countries and how it's being used. Now, let's look at the possibility of gaining 1% or more per day by trading Bitcoin. Here's another third-party article, WeUseCoins.com. I do believe WeUseCoins is produced by the same company that started BitShares. I think it's BitShares. Don't quote me on that. But this is an article that covers Bitcoin trading for beginners. You see, 5 easy steps for Bitcoin trading and profit for beginners. So let's scroll down, and I want to cover this section that says, why trade Bitcoin? 1, Bitcoin is global. It's not fiat currency, as I said before, meaning its price is not directly related to the economy or policies of any single country. So what this means is that general economic uncertainty and panic has driven a bit of Bitcoin's prices in the past. However, that's not going to be tied into any one news report in any one country based on any one economy. That's very powerful because now you have something that's going to grow based on global demand. Second, unlike stocks, there's no official one Bitcoin exchange in each country. So there are hundreds of exchanges around the world that operate 24/7. And since there is no one Bitcoin exchange that's official, meaning that has the market on it, there's also no official Bitcoin price. This creates arbitrage opportunities. I won't get into the details of what arbitrage means, but basically you can split the difference from one exchange to the other. That allows for opportunity for profit. Thirdly, Bitcoin is volatile, and this is probably the most important. This article says Bitcoin is known for its rapid and frequent price movements. Looking at this daily chart from CoinDesk BPI, this chart right here, it's easy to spot multiple days with swings of 5% or more. Now, this is an article that was written. When was this article written? Some time ago, several months ago. So let's prove this. Granted, this is a third-party article, but let's not take their word for it, even though they claim to be an authority. Let's look at what Bitcoin has done recently and see if that's true. That's easy to find swings of 5% in a day. So here we see Bitcoin. It's number one on CoinMarketCap. You can go here yourself on Google. Bitcoin market cap. Click on its chart, and let's hit 1 day and see what happens. All right, so here we go. 1 day. Its low was 25.98. Let's say 2,600. And its high was 27.63. Let's say 27.50. So that's a delta of 150 US dollars. You take, let's take 2,600 and divide that into 150. What do you have, guys? 5.7%. And that's on the upswing. Now it went from 2750 down to 2700. So that's another swing of 50. So you take 50 and 2600, that's another 2% almost. So you're looking at roughly 7% if you only traded, mind you, if you only traded from the low to the high. That's not including all the swings in between, where with each of these crests and trough, you can make a put and a call based on micro trading if you have the software, and you can see greater gains. So you can see just from a real life scenario here, gaining approximately 5 to 7% just on today's trading is possible if, and I stress the word if, you were sitting in front of your computer all day looking at the charts and you were a professional that had history in trading with very good software. My point is, the average Joe is not going to do that. I know I'm not going to do that. That's why I would purchase a package with USI Tech, because you can see from all the third-party verification that, number one, Bitcoin is going somewhere. Its price is going to increase. We saw that through the articles. Number two, it's easy for the beginner to see swings of 5% per day in trading. So it's fair and safe and conservative to accept a package or contract with USI Tech that gives you 1% per working day for 140 working days. Very, very reasonable, very conservative and stable. Now, here's an upside to this that is much larger than Swiss Gold Global and Genesis Mining. Yes, if you share it, you can receive commissions on the volume you generate. In addition to that, you can set yours on auto buy, which means as soon as you've generated enough euros to purchase a new package, it will immediately purchase it for you, which means you don't have to log back in and do the purchasing. With Swiss Gold Global, you would have to go into your account every day and see the amount of Bitcoin that you have generated on your own personal wallet and make the purchase yourself. With USI Tech, it's automatic. It's click it and forget it. You would just check your account to see the gains. Also with USI Tech, there's a very lucrative payment plan should you decide to build a team. I'm not going to get into that now. However, should you decide to build a team, you can make large profits based on the total volume of your team. And that can skyrocket your earnings. However, if you do not want to do that, just like with Swiss Gold Global, you can make it passive. You can invest $5,000, $10,000, $1,000, and you can set it for auto rebuy. And over the course of roughly 10 months, you will more than triple your income. Again, that's a projection based on calculations I've done. Again, I cannot make income claims or guarantees. Those are just calculations that I've done personally. So this is also a good set it and forget it scenario as far as passive income. Great company, 8 years of history. Bitcoin's not going anywhere, and they have good proof that the 1% per working day is viable and conservative, as you could see through the third-party articles that we covered. Next is Atlantic Global Asset Management. Excuse me again while I take a little drink. With Atlantic Global Asset Management, you'll have the opportunity to purchase investment contracts, and you do receive quite a lengthy contract with this company. And the contract affords you to take part in all of their agronomistic investing platforms. Agronomistic investing, in a nutshell, is it's more of a farming term where you take land that's going bad and you churn it and you plant in it to create new life, basically. That's what they're doing with companies and IPOs, etc. They're taking companies that are fledgling, that are not doing well. They're restructuring them, cutting out the fat, so to speak, and then either selling them off or making them profitable. And they share those profits with their members with an average gain of anywhere between 4 to 6% per week. And you can start with low packages from 90 euros all the way up to $1 million, or rather €1 million. I suggest starting with at least €1,000 because the compounding factor with this particular platform is quite impressive. Let's look at the company itself and its legitimacy, because I've been following this company for about 6 months, 5 to 6 months, just to make sure it wasn't another scam. Granted, every one of the companies I'm covering, you can go online and find a scam report about it, but none of those scammers are actually giving true data. I've researched to find true data on these companies with third-party verification. So let's take a look here. Let me close out this window, close this one out, here we go. Questro on the left for dummies. This is a site that was set up to give a quick overview, and I just want to look at a couple of tabs here. Agam Questra is a bona fide company. Here's its tax number in Cabo Verde, which is one of its headquarter company areas, and also you can see its registration number here in the UK, which is another one of its corporate areas that it functions out of. The company was established, Atlantic Global Asset Management Investing Fund, that is, was established out of the SFC group, which has been in operation since 2009. So we're looking about 7-8 years, roughly 7-8 years of actual operation, because I think it was actually the end of that year, if I remember correctly, in the other articles that I read. So it's been around almost a decade. The company itself is in the business of buying and selling debt instruments, including shares of companies, conducting initial public offerings of its securities on stock exchanges, and also they provide accommodation of foreign securities to refinance companies and financial factoring. Some of the top management: Antonio Vieira Robalo. He's the president of the Joint Stock Investment Fund, AGAM. Andrei Androvich Abakumov. He's the CEO of the investment fund, AGAM, and he's a mathematician. He's a professional with a lot of training in financial advice, and he's had experience of over 2 decades in the financial and banking sector. Here's contact information for the company. Feel free to email them support@finance@atlanticgam.es or support@atlanticgam.es. And you can see their website there also. And there's their address and their company number. Next, I want to show you quickly some documentation on the company, its business authorizations and declarations. Here's the investment license in Cabo Verde. Here's the declaration, the NIF number. You can see it right there, the 272-198-501. Letters from auditors. Unfortunately, I do not speak that language, so I cannot read the letter. But later on, I'll give you more third-party information that documents this. So you can see the company itself is a legitimate company that has been in operation for about a decade. The company recently moved into the continent of Africa, and they made an agreement with Ecobank. Let's go to this article. I believe I set it up right here. ASOC Insight. This is another third-party article that talks about Atlantic Global Asset Management moving into Africa. This is the end of 2016. And you can see here, AGAM, a major global asset management firm with well-established businesses in the Asia, Pacific, and South Africa region, and its partner company Questra World have announced African expansion. And part of this African expansion, I won't read the entire article, but part of the African expansion, as Robalo says right here, is that in order to be successful, they needed local partners. Therefore, in Africa, AGAM has partnered with Ecobank. Ecobank is one of the largest Pan-African banks, very good to work with. And one of the highlights that he pointed out was that all of the investors' accounts are anonymous, and the bank has the right not to respond to requests from any structures and organizations. In other words, they don't have to answer to Big Brother to divulge the information of your accounts, or rather their accounts, should I say. Now, this company has 25 fund managers or groups where funds are diversified into. The performance of each fund is posted on the website weekly. Profits are deposited into your account on a weekly basis, and they can be immediately withdrawn to your personal bank accounts or your Bitcoin wallet. Here in America, it has to go through Bitcoin and then into your personal bank account. But at first, it has to go into your Bitcoin wallet. Now let's take a look at another article. InvestAdvocate.com. This was an article that covered an interview with the owners of Questra World and Atlantic Global Asset Management. I need to point out, Questra is the marketing arm for AGAM. So Questra, in a nutshell, is like the team that goes out there and establishes guys like myself who will have to follow a protocol, have to follow their rules and training to be able to promote the company and its memberships with AGAM, Atlantic Global Asset Management. So this article lets us know that these two companies are already well known in Europe. You see their two websites right there. And Questra World is the independent advertising broker that promotes Atlantic Global Asset Management. And this article highlights some Q&A with the owners. And, oh no, what happened there? And here is a very good tidbit that I'd like to cover. It says, why couldn't the bank sell assets at a high price and you could? Roballo says, and I believe it's Roballo, the reason is the complexity of the disposal procedure of pledged property. There's one special moment when the asset price is minimal and you need to be a professional buyer to find this moment and to make a deal. In other words, you should know thoroughly all the nuances. You see, this team has had over 2 decades of experience in the finance industry, and they know how to spot deals. And as we can see, since '09, they've been functioning without a hitch. I have not found any reports online where none of the investors received funds. No reports where anyone says that I invested and now I want my money back because AGAM is not doing what they said they would do. And here's another part down here. What revenues members of your affiliate network can expect? This was a very interesting piece of information. The maximum bonus that we expect to pay in the coming months is €1 million. Again, I cannot make income claims, but when a company goes on record saying that they're paying out as a maximum bonus €1 million in the coming months, that says that the company is doing a large amount of business and they have high profits because they're sharing those profits. This is a great article to read. And I'm not sure, is this the one where below? Yeah, you can see a day ago, someone shared their own link. I hate it when people do that. They just troll their links out there instead of actually doing webinars or doing the hard work to build a network. Anyways, you can see 12 days ago, this person looks like they're from Asia. Koi Xing says the company is doing awesome and I'm impressed with their progress. This guy looks like he's from the continent of Africa. 4 months ago, he's trolling out there his information also. So we can see that there's third-party verification of this company. Here's another piece of verification that I like to cover, and it shows one of Questra's projects. This is another site put up by a director. And you see here the purchase of the company TACP Cabo Verde Airlines. AGAM purchased this airline when it was fledgling. They did an IPO and they generated between 300 to 500% profit in 7 to 8 months. And in this investment, it says famous banks such as Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley were involved. At the end of the IPO, the value increased and they were able to sell it to a Chinese portfolio investor, and the profitability of the transaction was estimated to be between 300 to 500%. And that was realized in less than a year. So you can see that this company has verification of how they can produce the returns that they are claiming to be able to produce. Once you sign on with AGAM, you will receive roughly 4 to 6% per week. That's not per month, per week, into your account. And you can take that money and go ahead and purchase more investment packages. And that's how you will compound your earnings. With this company, I suggest a different approach than I did with Swiss Gold Global. With Swiss Gold Global, I said to compound for the first 6 months, 100%. With this company, I would compound personally, this is me, I would compound roughly 50% for the first 6 months. That's just because I am conservative. When something has a higher rate of return, I would like to see my ROI a little bit sooner, just because of the conservative nature. So that's the approach I would take with AGAM. If you want to do what I'm doing and you want to promote it, you can also receive 5% initially on the volume that you generate. And that also can be put towards investment packages. So this is a great company. You can see AGAM Questra has partnered with EcoBank. It's a Pan-African bank, well-known company in Europe. And there's a lot of substantiation concerning this company. Here's the last bit of third-party documentation that sealed the deal for me. I've been following it, as I said, for several months, and I've been following with it a gentleman by the name of Alex Villa. And through WhatsApp, Alex Villa has been sharing his experience. I've been on phone calls with Alex. Alex started roughly 10 months ago with very little money. I believe it was less than $1,000. And Alex, this is a picture of him here. And Alex has now grown to where he's bringing in over $40,000 per month, I believe. Over $40,000 per month. And here's some information he shared with us that I want to share with you that I received directly to my WhatsApp account. So here's Alex Villa. He became a director. And when you're a director, it's mandatory that you fly over to Spain. So he flew over to Spain to sign contracts and to receive his yearly bonus, which was, I think, was $250,000. Don't quote me on that. It was somewhere around 200 or 250,000. So that's Alex here, and there's his wife. They're flying over. This was June the 6th. So after Alex flew over, he gives us more info. He checked into his room, etc. But here's the important part. He took pictures over at corporate. So there's Alex on the right with one of the execs at Questra World headquarters in Spain. There he is with his contract. It's kind of fuzzy, but that's him down there, right here with his contract. And he said he had to get a polygraph test also to prove that he was who he says he is, and they could verify him for contract signing. And then here below is a picture of him signing the contract. He got to talk with VP Diego Martin, who let him know that he was the first director from the USA to visit the corporate office and make it official. And here it is. And it's official. Alex Villa successfully signed his director's contract to claim his whopping 220,000 euro bonus. So there he is, signing his contract. That's great. That's really great. You see him here again, proud of his contract, and here he is with the exact again. So that's just a great story. I've talked with Alex. Great, not a rags to riches story, but more like a normal guy to a normal guy with a lot more money story, which is great. That's really great. And that shows that this company is legitimate and that you can actually go visit the company headquarters, and they are offering career paths for their members. So let's reiterate really quickly. So here are the three platforms: Bitcoin mining with Genesis Mining and Swiss Gold Global. I have a little 30% next to that. If I had discretionary funds, I would put about 30% into Bitcoin mining with Genesis Mining and Swiss Gold Global. Bitcoin trading, USI Tech Bitcoin packages, you're getting about 1% a day for working days of 140. And you can set it on auto rebuy so that you don't have to monitor it, and it will automatically compound your earnings. With both of these, you can withdraw directly into your Bitcoin wallet. There's other options with both of these too. There's, I believe, Payza is one of the options, and other global payment systems. And also, I believe Ethereum. You can get paid in Ethereum with one of these too. Lastly was global investing with AGAM, their agronomistic investing platform. If I had discretionary funds of whatever the amount, I put 50% of it into AGAM, and I would compound only 50% of it and pull the other 50% out. Every period, which is weekly, is what they do it. They do it as I would be able to recoup my investment funds a little bit faster, and then I would put them into something more long-term like the Bitcoin mining, just because that way I'm spreading my risk pretty evenly. So let's just say I had $15,000. I would put 8,000 of it into AGAM Global Investing. That would bring in for me roughly $1,600 per month. Then out of the 7,000 left, I would go ahead and put 4,000 into Bitcoin mining with Genesis Mining and Swiss Gold Global. And then the balance of 3, I would put into Bitcoin trading with USI Tech and Bitcoin packages. I would let Bitcoin mining, like I said, compound for 6 months. I do the same with the Bitcoin trading. And then with global investing with AGAM, I would compound 50% of it. With all 3 of them, you can receive commissions based on building a team, but that's not necessary. Each of them can be a passive investment platform. So that is it for the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will make these notes available to anyone who wants. And also at the end of the notes, I have sign-up links and instructions for how to register. So that's it for the Crypto Council Spreading Risk in Digital Currency and Investments webinar. Take care, God bless you, and I look forward to helping you to achieve your investment goals.